So Ottawa just announced that they're going to reintroduce 30-year mortgages under certain conditions. Now this is big news for the Canadian real estate market. No, actually it's not big news for the Canadian. Actually it's more like a non-event. It's really not that important, really. Okay, well, we're still going to talk about it because some of us might be considering buying a home for the first time, and there are a few things that you want to be mindful of. When it comes to the Canadian real estate market, and when it comes to mortgages specifically, there's one word or one name you need to remember: CMHC, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. This is the organization, or the body, if you will, that sets the rules around mortgages in Canada. Essentially, when they put a rule together, the banks follow these rules to lend you and I money when we're looking to buy a home. Now, we have to do a bit of history here for you to understand the context of mortgages in Canada. In June of 2006, you could actually get mortgages of 30 to 35 years that were insured by the CMHC. Now, one of the roles that the CMHC plays is that they insure your mortgages in case of a loss, and that insurance is for the bank. So if you're buying a home and you're putting less than 20% of the value of the home down, so let's say you're putting 5% or 10%, you have to pay an insurance premium to CMHC. And in case you default, the value of the mortgage is given back to the bank, and the bank is now very happy to lend you money because they have a bit of an insurance against it. So 2006, you can get a mortgage of 30 to 35 years. A little bit later in 2006, the CMHC tweaked its rules and you could actually get a 40-year mortgage with any bank. Banks were super happy. Everybody started buying homes or continued to buy homes. And then, as you can imagine, the price and the value of houses started skyrocketing. Then we get into 2007. You can now buy a home with CMHC insurance even if you're self-employed. Speaking about being self-employed, if you haven't already smashed the like button, share this with at least 2 people, and subscribe to this channel, you're missing out. Please subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Now we move to 2008. The housing crash happens in the US and Canadians start to get nervous. The CMHC brings down its 40-year mortgage to 35 years. We now move to 2010. The finance department in Canada now decides that you need to put at least 20% down whenever you're buying a rental property. Let's fast forward to 2015. Things start to get dicey. The finance department decides that whenever you're buying a home with a value over $500,000, you must put at least 10% down on the excess, or the difference between $500,000 and whatever the value of the home is. What do you think happens? People rush in the housing market to buy homes before the new regulation comes into effect. 2016 comes around and the housing market is on fire all across Canada, but specifically in Vancouver. So the legislators introduced a 15% foreign buyer tax in BC. All that means is that if you don't live and have residency in Canada and you want to buy a piece of real estate in Vancouver, you're going to pay an extra 15%. So now we move to 2021. A year into the pandemic, we are introduced to something called a stress test, which essentially means that when you qualify for a mortgage at your bank needs to charge you or play a scenario with 2% increase in the mortgage rate to make sure that you actually qualify. Now, the reason all of these regulations have been introduced over the past 10 to 15 years is to try and slow down the ridiculous price increase of houses over the past 2 decades. Over the past 20 years, the value of home has increased almost 400%. Now, this is crazy, and I'll give you a simple example. I bought my first townhome here in Ottawa for $245,000 in 2008. The builder today in 2024 is selling that same 1900 3-bedroom, 1-car garage townhome for $740,000 brand new. This is ridiculous. If I had known, I would have bought 2 townhomes like I told my wife back in 2008, but that's a story for another time. Okay, so let's go back to our 30-year mortgages that are now applicable. What are the conditions and who can actually benefit from that? In order to qualify for this 30-year mortgage, there are a few things that need to happen. Number 1, you need to be buying a home for the first time. Number 2, you need to be buying a home for your personal consumption, not an investment property. Number 3, you need to be putting less than 30% down in order to benefit from the CMHC insurance. Number 4, and this is a big one, you need to be buying a new construction. And this is where this policy falls flat in my opinion. The truth of the matter is most people don't want to buy a brand new home, and there are good reasons for that. But before we get into that, let's talk about who can actually benefit from this policy. If you were in the market looking to buy a brand new home, then absolutely having a 30-year amortization period actually allows you to reduce your monthly payment. So that's a good thing for your wallet, and allows you to buy other things and take care of your utilities and all the additional costs that you'll have with this brand new home. But that's pretty much all there is in terms of benefit if you're thinking of buying a brand new home and benefiting of this 30-year amortization. The truth of the matter is there are a lot more cons to this policy, in my personal opinion, than pros. Number one, if you're getting into a 30-year mortgage, guess who's getting rich and who's gonna stay poor? The banks are gonna make a ton of money because you're paying interest over a 30-year period, and you're gonna be broke for the rest of your life. So the rule of thumb is if you're gonna get into a 30-year mortgage, you wanna pay that puppy off within 15 years. That should be your target. The second thing you wanna be mindful of is that most real estate agents today do not suggest you buy a brand new home. And the reason is quite simple. When you buy a brand new home, you have to do the landscaping, you have to do the fencing, you have to buy appliances, you have to buy the window covering. There are a ton of expenses that come with buying a brand new home. When you're buying a second-hand home, everything is already done for you. All you do is you pick up the keys. And yeah, maybe you have a few renovations to do, but nothing as massive as the investment that you need when you buy a brand new home. So most real estate agents out there will always suggest that you have better value, and that there is better value when you're buying a home that's already been lived in for the past 5 or 10 years. So the truth of the matter is buying a brand new home is actually costing you more money up front when you do that. So at the end of the day, this announcement is not going to make any significant changes to the Canadian housing market, but there are a few key takeaways that you want to take into consideration if you're thinking of buying a home. Number one, you want to really make sure that if you're going to take a 30-year mortgage, you're going to pay that puppy down a lot faster so that you can save on interest and become home free and debt free a lot faster. Number two, really think twice before you buy a brand new home. It ends up costing you tens of thousands of dollars on top of your brand new home, simply because it's a brand new home. There are a lot of things that you can do to an old home for it to look brand new. I recently had the front of my house painted, and you'd be surprised how nice it looks, and you would think that it's a brand new home. And last but not the least, don't buy too much home. You don't want to be one of those individuals who's just house poor. All of your income goes into your mortgage payment, and you can't travel, you can't be generous, you can't give, you can't do activities for your kids. The kids can't do piano, karate, all that fun stuff. That's horrible. You don't want to be house rich and then be poor with everything else. Just buy enough home for you to be comfortable, for you and your family to be comfortable, and make sure that you have enough money to invest, to build your emergency fund, and to continue living life. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.